Are we live, Dave?
I think we're live. Hello. Welcome, Shopomaniacs. We got a friend coming. False start.
I'd like to ask everyone, though, who's here, though, to please double click on our presentation to see it as big as you can. There are also printouts of this PDF presentation by the door. They're in a 3-ring binder. Please only take one copy. There's not enough for everybody.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Well, if everyone's ready to go, Chris, are we ready?
I think we're ready, Dave. Please take it away.
Hi, welcome to the Shop Talk Marketing Cloud webinar. We're here to talk about life business changing software. Step 1. Oh man, clicker. Oh boy. Okay, escaping system pitfalls. Chris?
Our software has charting and single sign-on.
We believe you can achieve your customer velocity today.
If these charts don't convince you, our backwards compatible enterprise product solution will. Log on to our portal and download our password protected PDF for compelling growth strategies and high yield human capital. Now back to Dave for more interoperable turnkey best of breed strategy supply chains.
Customer satisfaction, you bet. It's all here. Quantum improvements, numbers.
Note the flexibility. We're talking no SQL here.
We can give you a one-time disposable facsimile that you'll never have to see again. If I understand correctly, this is very on trend with the industry.
Leverage that.
Okay, wrapping up. Any questions? I'm looking to the chat or the crowd. Any questions? No. Oh, high five. Yes. Synergy. Hi. Thank you so much for attending the webinar. It's 104 degrees outside, and so I'm going to take off this wool blazer.
That's cool.
Boy. That's cool.
You're not in the wrong room, people. This is really shop
not a webinar. Hey, Chris. We are here at the jamstackconf.com. SmashingConf.com. And this is, I said Jamstack because I want to get down, there were quite a few talks on Jamstackiness, but I want to get to the meat and potatoes here and play a little game I like to call Who Won the Conference?
Yeah. All right. And the best speaker award goes to.
It's
you gotta go. We can't do that. Or are you going to do it?
We can't. No, we can't choose favorites. But I did. I liked all the talks. Dan's talk was pretty good. I identified with quite a few things. Chad, I'd love to know what you really liked about it.
Well, here, I'll tell you a story. Do you want to hear one? I had to, I tried to reschedule a meeting, but I couldn't. So for one little part of today's conference, I had to jump over to a Zoom call, much like this one, but just there's different people there, you know? And it was about component refactoring. It was about like, oh, we have this text field component, but we also have an input field component, and they kind of do the same thing. So which one should we pick? And how should we think about the API forum? Should support everything, yada, yada. And then somebody brought up this like one other use case where we used this component on the site, and it didn't have a label because it was kind of like a matrix of inputs. It was this little situation. And I immediately thought of something Dan said. At one point in Dan's talk, he said, there's extremes of design systems. One extreme is, I don't care about design systems. I'm just going to code this thing up and just whatever. It's useless to me. I'm going to use 0% of a design system. That's one extreme. And the other extreme is 100%. Nothing goes into our app if it's not a part of a design system. The design system rules all. It's the most important thing. That's like 100% design system. The other extreme, and Dan's like, neither of those extremes are realistic or useful. And that not everything has to be. If there's a little one-off or something, or you need some extra creativity here or something, it's okay that not every component on your site needs to be necessarily a part of the design system. And that, like, in this meeting I just had today, kind of like solved that issue. It's like, let's just not have our design system handle that particular area of the site. That'll just be a one-off, and it'll just be handled on that page just how it is, you know?
Yeah, no, that's like, the more I think about design systems and build them and whatever, it's like, you know, maybe the hero unit does not go in the design system, like, because maybe that should like change with the weather, you know, like it should be like very like creative and very like kind of just one off, like this is your front door, paint whatever color you want, you know, like
Yeah, right on.
like, and so
line styles, you know, go crazy.
Just do it. Like we call them web components now, but but you can you like just do a one-off, like, and I like Dan's analogy of the Lego store, because it was just, you know, put the high impact stuff up front, like show that stuff even in your design system, you know, and then as you go back into the back of the store, there's the
what
fake
did he call
Lego.
it? A signature component was that, but that was almost
like,
was that cool or not cool? I have a feeling it was kind of like not cool. Like don't work too hard on that one.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and that would be like I don't know, I guess, yeah, like you need like your bread and butter components, and that needs to go in a section. I mean, I don't know. Alphabetical is always everyone's favorite way to browse stuff, but Dan has other ideas. Apparently, yeah, that's non-alphabetical.
I have a question for
organization.
you. I love that your any questions slide is still up too. Let's just leave that up. That's really good.
Oh yes, we're any questions for throughout the show, we will happily ask questions, chat. So,
well, have you done this? This is another thing from Dan's talk. Have you ever done the sneak it in approach to a design system? Because you're kind of known for working on design systems, or at least you've done a bunch of them. Have you ever had to been like, you know, I'm not going to even use the DS word, but I'm going to say, you know, they want us to work on, you know, re-CMSing or something. Are you like, do you just slip it in as part of that work? Like the old trickerino?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, there's one, we did a site for the Austin Chamber of Commerce, which is a chamber of commerce here in Austin. And they, you know, we built the site, but we built it in components, and then it was like put into Vue, I believe, is sort of like the Vue Laravel sort of backend. But it was, and so we just delivered like front end HTML in like a Jekyll or something, and then they put it all into the kind of Vue components, and then lo and behold, like, I don't know, like 2 days later, they're like, hey, we built a whole about page using the components. Is this okay? And we were like, yeah, they're yours. Like, use them.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that leads me to another point that front end, to me, front end development is really heading towards a componentized model. Like it's just all over the place. You know, even native technology is going there, right? Components, which makes it seem like that design systems are just, you're not, you know how I don't know, to me at least, you get a new client or whatever, not that I do client work, but you're working on a new project. You don't have a conversation anymore about whether you're going to make it responsive or not. Of course, yes, you just are, you know? And the fact that we're build everything with components, maybe it will stop being a conversation if we're going to use a design system or not, because you're making a bunch of components. So like it or not, you made a design system, you know?
Yeah, no, and even with all these frameworks, Tailwind UI or Bootstrap or whatever, it's almost like which component from this thing do you want? Like which one expresses your values, or which one should we start with and customize, you know? And so you kind of like you even have like a prefabs is kind of what I call them from like the video game world. You have these like prefabricated things that you just kind of, okay, let's start with this or something similar to this and see what it looks like. So, and yeah, we just kind of, we build in components and even code in components. Like you don't want to repeat yourself ideally, right? As a developer. So we code in components and, that's, the best way. But I think there is like what Dan is kind of getting at is like the nuance, right? Like know when to bail out, right? Like know when to, or like what to emphasize or when to bail out of a design system or like, prioritizing what components go into the first round. Cause that's the thing too. If you let a design system sit for 22 years, it's just only going to ever be 66%, implemented. And so
I feel like if it sits for one day, you're already screwed. I mean, the design system should be that integrated that you're using it. I mean, Dan also said start today and never stop, or at least that was incorporated into some thoughts in some way. And I liked that because it was like, this isn't a sprint necessarily. It might be a sprint to like get it started or get some motion on it or something, but like you work in it all day, every day. It's not a thing that just is done when you're done with it.
Well, and I forget the name of the woman from Airbnb, or was it Lyft? But it was, just our design system is like evolving. It is kind of like we talk to customers and we get feedback. And so we change our product based on the customer feedback. And like, you need a design system that can be agile too, or like meet customer needs, So I think Gina's talked about that, or Dan referenced Gina as well. Just, how do you like, how do you meet people? It's design systems are for people. So how do you meet people with your design system? So
yeah, isn't that interesting? That seems like that's most of the talk around design system lately has been like the technology part is not so interesting anymore. It turns out to be a people issue. I mean, we watched that happen with responsive design too, like Ethan and Karen at the forefront of responsive design decided to do a podcast about responsive design, and it had nothing to do with the technology of responsive design. Every show was about what was the organizational situation like.
Yeah. And it's all about how people like were figuring this out from an organizational level. It was less, people weren't like, oh man, how do media queries work? That wasn't it at all. It was all, how do we do this as a person? So
yeah. Well, you got to iterate on it. Wasn't that that was kind of perhaps a big core thing in Nadia Bremer's talk, right? You at least I know you keyed into that like that quality takes iteration, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of like how on an audio podcast do we talk about amazing visualizations? That's not like going to talk going to like scale well for us.
Look at all these Skittles all over the floor. How many Skittles are there? There's Skittles.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Audio visualizations.
Yeah, exactly. So this one looked like a brain and it had, but so it was, that was, the graphics were amazing and they like told a story. But what I found most interesting was the iteration on the graphics that she showed. And, I guess the probably quintessential one was like the lineage of royal families or whatever. Like you start with one pass at it and you're like, oh, this doesn't really, I mean, the data's there, but it's not really telling me anything. And then you like do a tweak or you like compress one side of it. And now you like, I found that iteration stuff really amazing. Or the, I'm blanking on what the other one was. The where the dances, like how they like the etymology or like the creation of dance or how they relate to each other, like the primary and secondary sort of features of the dance, it told nothing. It just looked like a tennis ball. But then you pull in the like the first like primary things, the UNESCO stuff. Thank you, Jesse. But like you pull in the like the primary aspects, and now all of a sudden you have like data starts grouping together a lot more clearly, and it was very, I don't know. I just,
Isn't that
I
the
like,
skill? Like, what if you took, because I think there's a lot of courses. You go to LinkedIn, Linda, whatever it is, or Front End Masters, or places that are known for. There's definitely going to be courses on D3, and they might even have a whole course structure on data viz. And you could do that, but I don't know that you necessarily come out of it with the sensibilities for being able to iterate and trim down and be good at this skill. And that's like, it's almost like two skills in one. Like the tech,
well, that's what,
fine, but
yeah, that's what I found interesting. Like the tech stuff is like, you can spit out a graph. Like I can follow a Stack Overflow and spit out a graph, but like, how do you show something? That's different. That's a different like skill, or even that's a hone skill. So, and I think in our day-to-day lives, it's like, hey man, we need a graph by Tuesday. Give us the graph on the royal families, do it, and you're like, oh man, okay, go work, do the graph by Tuesday. And so you're just gonna like make a nest of all the royal families, and there's your graph. But like a good graph is iterated on, and like you're just like, okay, we spit out the data, now what can we do with it, or what
what's the
do we
story? What's
not
the
know?
insight?
Yeah, and I think that's, and then even just the design touch of rotating it, that was like anyway, they look good. But it just, I thought that for me, just in my life and like prototyping and stuff like that, that really hit like a thing. I'm reading a whole book on it. Ken Kosienda talks about, he calls it creative selection, which is kind of like a Darwinism reference, but it's kind of Apple's design process and how they built Safari, how they built the iPhone, how they built the iPad, just their like iterative process where they go kind of prototype to prototype, and they say like, how does this work? Does it look good? Does it tell us something? And so I just thought that was very, very cool. And you almost, I don't know, it's almost like artists in residency or something, that more than like, I don't know, some data viz could be like that, but
Yeah.
it can also be just spitting out charts. If that's what you do,
I
that's
wonder
great.
if you could have the technology help you find those things by the nature of how you code it. As somebody who looks at like 100 at least code pens on CodePen a day, just kind of part of my job a little bit. I've found
Okay.
I'm attracted to the idea of any kind of visual thing in which that gives me some controls, some knobs and stuff to turn.
Yeah.
Generative art uses this a lot, kind of like, I don't know, what's the color palette you want it to be? How dense do you want it to be? What's the stroke weight, And that instead of just like guessing that in code, build yourself some controls so you can mess around with it there. Maybe even have a randomize button, Sometimes I see great things that have lots of controls be like, I don't know, just F me up, boom, boom, boom. And you can see generative art happen. But that's generative art. That same kind of concept could be applied to a data viz, I would think. And maybe through random happenstance, you'll land on beautiful things, who knows?
Yeah, data. I think data. I think that's how she started the talk, was like making connections through like astronomy. Like those are just balls of gas in the sky. But for some reason we're like, no, that one's a lion, and that one's a guy shooting an arrow at something.
You just did Lion King.
Yeah, I mean,
that's great.
I just think it's very like, I think it's great that they like, I don't know, it's just, we make connections. If you're only like, I don't know, if you just only make one layer of connection, that doesn't tell you anything. You need, and we have interactivity now with the web. I thought that was cool. So
yeah, I think that's up your alley. You're so into prototyping and iteration and stuff. That's been rattling around in the Dave brain.
Oh, it just jingle jangles. So and just one thing. So next talk was Guillermo, right? Guillermo.
Yeah. Well, you said there's lots of Jamstack talk, and this was no shortage of it. Yeah.
Yeah. This was sort of the core, but I think all of this too kind of factors in, just because it's like, how do we iterate quickly? And like Guillermo's like, he sort of cited like the rule of least power, or just even like, how do you like, if you have too much power, you almost get stuck, right? Like, oh, we have this gigantic CMS that does everything, but then it's like, who wants to work on it? And it's like, no one wants to work on that, right? I felt that way with like WordPress or whatever. So it's just kind of like, I think he makes the point, like, if we want designers and developers to collaborate, or, it all sort of ties together for me. I think like you need to kind of like you need a static kind of component to your site, or static-ish, so.
Is
Anyway,
it because it allows you to work on it easier? Is your hypothesis there?
That's my thing. I mean, I think even too, like, barrier to entry is way lower. Like asking, a designer to type next in the command line or Versal, like that's easier than, okay, install MySQL, like, and then run this migration and then do the, like, so like lowering that barrier to entry is pretty critical, I think, to like getting something out there,
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you could make the argument that WordPress does that too, even though it leverages more complex technologies later. I mean, we were just talking about, we have this podcast, right? I mean, that's what we're doing, live shop talk show. Hopefully this will turn into an MP3 and we'll host it somewhere, and then we will, click some buttons, add some text, and it's going to turn into an XML file that is available at a URL that podcatchers will hit and get the latest podcast from us. So we use helpers to do that. I don't hand code that XML feed. I don't think most people do, although I think some people occasionally do. But
Jeremy
that's no
Keith
good.
does, but
yeah, I'm sure he does. So WordPress generates it for us. But when we set that up, we were all proud of ourselves. Oh God, we did it. Look at this plugin. This is a nice little system. And we've even evolved it over the years. We redesigned stuff. We do data maintenance and stuff. But it's as Shop Talk Show, I hate to admit it, people out there, you might think this is our full-time job. It's far from it. We don't have, it's pretty far down the totem pole of like technology time Dave or I could put in, little baby chunks here and there. And now this plugin is ancient. It's not updated anymore. It's not even on the plugin repo anymore. It's super dead.
Yeah.
And so now we're in this like, so how do we iterate on it? Well, if this was a Jamstack site, we'd find the template and we'd change it or something. Like the barrier entry for us would be lower, but we are.
Yeah, but because it's like tied to this database and these like specific fields that have to spit out and names and what, it's like, oh man, updating that plugin is going to be a lot of work for 400 and whatever 20 something episodes.
And the end result is a site that works the same way as it did before. Hopefully,
a lot of work.
That's the best goal.
Yeah, a lot of work to stop getting an email from the hosting company every week or whatever. Like, hey, your website's old. So yeah.
I mean, we're still going to do it at some point, but who knows what the internals of this? I mean, one of us might have to write SQL. That's not going to be fun.
That's not going to be fun. So
anyway, there was, Guillermo's a smart guy. His blog is amazing. Every time he's a big thoughts kind of guy, the perfect CEO kind of guy, Yeah. Anyway, I like that, he was talking about Versal's technical priorities, put security at the top of the stack. That's wonderful. Availability right below that. Awesome. Performance right below that. All huge things, all prioritized above the kind of the DX of it all. Not that those things are all kind of tied together, but I think that's kind of neat. And then he, it was a big hat tip to Jamstack saying that kind of the first three things in those lists are check for Jamstack, like the security of Jamstack is nuanced, but like largely they're static files. You can't really hack into them. There's not an opportunity to do that. Availability is like these, what Jamstack assumes is this global CDN network. The availability of that's going to kick ass, like check. And the performance too is right there. So that's nice. I mean, it's no wonder people are flocking to that stack, even though he objected to the word stack, which I don't really blame him for. But
yeah, I thought that was interesting too. Like that Jamstack is like maybe too broad of a term. I thought, I like Jamstack as a term. I thought Phil Hawksworth was going to be very upset that he was going for the name, but I do
remember it's not capitalized anymore. Phil.
Oh yeah.
Phil nixed the capitalization on Jamstack.
Okay.
Good job, Phil.
Whatever Phil wants to do, we'll do whatever Phil tells us to do.
Yeah.
So all lowercase Jamstack is, which is worse. All lowercase Jamstack is like, I don't know. That's like It's maybe a broad term because you could be like, are you talking about Jekyll? Are you talking about Leaventy? Are you talking about Nuxt? Are you talking about Next? Are you talking about Redwood? Are you talking about, something, one portion of your site or something, like
Yeah, in the
there's
past, a stack has been highly prescriptive, and this as a stack is entirely unprescriptive. In fact, the only thing
yeah.
that is required, I think, for the Jamstack isn't represented there, which is the static hosting part of it.
So jamish,
Perhaps
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jamish stack.
Pretty cool though. And then you had this thought about the rule of least power, the principle of least power. That's quoted often, isn't it? It doesn't even the HTML spec even like mandates it or has some quote in there that feels pretty philosophical for a spec. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it's like what's funny, like I've literally heard it like a dozen times this week, like referenced in talks or other things I've watched or whatever. And so like I just was like, ooh, there was another mention of it, and I wonder if like, when somebody like you hear something 10 times, you're like, what's up with that thing I heard 10 times? I wondered like I wonder if that term is popular because things are so complex right now. You know what I mean? Like are we like, we're like, oh, it's about the rule of least power now because everything's way too complicated. I wonder if that's what we're
Probably,
coming.
and
I wonder.
An extension of that is then seeing these complicated things and then and then having somebody who perhaps knows a simpler way to approach it, look at it just, jaw dropped, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why did you, what? That's crazy. And then the solution is to do, although, there's just nuance to all that stuff. I like the concept, but at the same time, it's almost like principle of like least cognitive overload or principle of practical least power or something. It's like, I know that I can make a toggle in CSS with a radio button, and is CSS automatically less powered than JavaScript? I think you'd argue that it is, right? Because like, don't do something in JavaScript that you could do in CSS. Don't do something in CSS that you could do in HTML. Like, kind of fall down the stack is what it implies. But it's like, I find, sometimes toggling a class with JavaScript is like the least cognitive overload. It's like more clear what's happening than using a check selector or something,
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's it's easier just to use JavaScript. The thing so I had a question about this. I asked Jeremy Keith about it this week, but because again, I was talking about this. So rule of like, okay, I am making a website. Okay. I have kids, so I'm making a website. I want to like mess with images like Squoosh or something like that, right?
Oh yeah.
And or even like whatever. I was thinking like, when you go to a website and you want to like click the red dress and see the red dress or the blue shoe or the pink, shorts, like these, like if you want to image manipulate like that on the client side or whatever, I can do that in JavaScript, right? Okay. I'm pretty good at with Canvas. I can do that. I can change some pixels.
You just render every other pixel at half the size right there. It's amazing.
So I'm good at, I can do that in JavaScript, but I'm wondering like WebAssembly is the better tool, like some sort of like more powerful tool in my mind to do that more efficiently. But I'm wondering where that sits on the rule of least power scale, like, because in my brain, it's a more powerful tool, right? It's more, but if I'm using the rule of least power, well, I can technically do it using a whole bunch of JavaScript. That's an interesting nuance,
because I wouldn't even know where to start. My mind did not go to WebAssembly like yours did. And even if it did go to WebAssembly, I've never written a WebAssembly thing literally ever in my life. So I wonder if that same extension falls down to other people who are like, I don't know, I made the menu open with React because I didn't even think about doing it any other way. I didn't even know
I don't know how jQuery works. So React worked great for this.
You know what? It made me think of this optimizing images though, because I just did this week that I thought was fascinating. I've been using GitHub Actions more. Have you used it at all yet? It's like their lists.
I have not. It's on my to-do list because I think I've said it on the show before, but I ported my whole blog over to 11D because I want to run like Lighthouse CI on it, like kind of just check my performance as I go. But then 11D was like 1 second slower than Jekyll, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna switch yet for whatever dumb reason.
For build time, right?
For 1 second of build time, I didn't switch it over. So it's all sitting in a branch. It's all fine. But 1 second of build time, and now all these posts are this has been a hot week for JavaScript build processes, but certain frameworks take upwards of 30 minutes to build a website. And I just was like, oh boy, maybe I should be a little nicer to Zach Leatherman over
we have a
1 second of
great
build time.
Post on this coming out on CSS Tricks where this fella I'm working with took like 6 static site generators and wrote up a little like bash script thing that will generate like 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 100,000 gibberish markdown files with metadata, and then shoots them through the SSG with like minimal templating and stuff just to measure their build speed. And it's really interesting data. I don't want to ruin it too much yet, but Go is like the fastest thing that's ever been. Like Go is just ridiculous and how speedy it is as a language. It just crushes. Hugo just crushes in build speed.
Well, but it comes with it like a templating language build. If JavaScript had a templating language, we'd be a lot faster, I don't know. Seems like an apples to, I don't know.
So the GitHub thing,
rocket ships comparison.
This is shout out to the gang at Calibre. They released an action. So GitHub Actions, you can just write your own. It's not a difficult thing to do. You just make this little XML, this little YAML file, that's like, do this crap, please, just run it, and it will. You'd be like, run it on Ubuntu, run this npm, whatever. But there's also a marketplace, so you can be like, it uses this action. So then you have to write even less code because somebody else maintains this like marketplace action thing you can run. It's like commoditizing CI, it's pretty cool, I think. But they've made this image optimized one, and I was like, I'm gonna try it. Let me just get it into a thing, and it's so clever. You're like, I only want this to run on pull requests and whatever, and it just does it. It was like 12 lines of code that I just copied into a .github folder in the repo, and then you do a pull request, and it optimizes all the images, and then makes a comment on the PR that says these are the images that we optimized for you. Then you got to pull again because it like committed the re-optimized images.
Sure, yeah.
Well, it's so clever, and it guarantees that every image in your project is going to be optimized.
That seems like the best place to optimize, like at the pull request, because if you have a good branching strategy, if you're just committing to master all the time, maybe that doesn't work. But like at the pull request level, then you like, you're kind of like, you're gatekeeping, I guess, but you're like trying to say, hey, before this comes in, we want to like do minimal due diligence and make sure that this got
think of the checklist. That's it. But now that you've done that, it's easy to start an obsession, right? You're like, we got to run this through Lighthouse or run it through SpeedCurve CLI or something. Run a synthetic test and get some numbers on perf to make sure you didn't screw the pooch on perf. Run it through an accessibility tester tool. Make sure that you get all green checks out of that thing. Run it through all your minifiers and all that, although that probably happened client side. It depends on where, but I really like the idea of like making it so easy to do all of those things that just everybody does it. It just becomes like a natural part of all build processes. Like, just run those things. Of course you run those things. Yeah,
of course everyone knows when you deploy, you look at the list of images and check them off. We should just normalize that. So it would be cool.
So I'm kind of working on it. It's been in my brain a lot, and visual testing too, because there's those tools have gotten better too. Like, please take a screenshot of what this URL looks like and compare it to what that URL on master looks like. And just tell me if it's different. Maybe I'll just be like, that's fine, I changed it, or maybe I'll be like, whoa, whoops.
I would love a list of whether GitHub Actions or CIs or anything like that. Like I installed this and it makes my life better. I would love a list of those, not like, like, because sometimes you'll set up a whole CI for like testing or whatever, and they'll fail, and it's just chucking errors and deployments blocked, and everyone's mad. So you turn it off and you deploy it, and you have errors.
Been there, yeah,
like,
absolutely.
But anyway, but like, I would love, like, I integrated this action or this build process, and it made my life better. I would love like a blog post on that. Like, here's 5 build processes I've used that made my life better. I would love a post on that.
You didn't go overboard with it. You need stuff that's deterministic, I think, or at least as close as you can. If you write 200 integration tests, unfortunately, as awesome as I think they are, you're going to have random failures. And then as soon as you're in the territory of having random failures, you kind of stop caring. You're like, oh, whatever, that one failed again. I don't know, just deploy it. Who cares,
Yeah. Well, you need, like, that's where the, like, it made my life better, and not like I'm so obsessed with whatever. I'm trying to think of like I wanted to count all the points in all my SVGs, so I set up a CI. That doesn't matter to me. Like, I want like very like, like, I don't know. I installed this. It made my life better, and it was,
yeah. I mean, Guillermo had a blog post about this the other day. He said, I'm still talking about integration test, he wrote 1, or it implied that that's a good. It goes to your homepage. It checks the title. Does it have the title that it expects to have, that says like CodePen in it or whatever? Done. Like, if that works, a lot of stuff went right. Your dev server booted up. It returned an HTML document. The title was there. Yeah. Like, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Hey, we got a question in from Hawks Philworth. Writes in, how do you stop yourself from becoming blind to those build errors warnings that you can live with? Just kind of, how do you
I don't know. I want none. I want no false positives. That's probably
I have a client, and they run, it's like the test, but it'll like block the commit, or where does it happen? It's a pre-commit hook. Yeah. So or pre-push hook or whatever that is. I think that's commit. But so it's kind of frustrating, because like you'll code some, you'll change a doc, like the change log or a document, and then you'll like just get pushed that up, and it's like fail, and you're like, well, why? And it's like, oh, I need to like npm install. Somebody went through and npm installed something, so I have to update npm to run the test correctly.
Oh, okay, right.
That's fine. I'll do that. And but it slows down my day, but like, it's fine. But I think like, there is like just hitting that failure. I'm like a little, you get salty or like sour about it. You're just like, you're not my friend. You're my active enemy. But I don't know how you do that. Maybe these robots need faces, these bots, and they're like, I don't know, like Buddy Christ, kind of like trying to help.
Pre-commit hooks are interesting though, because they're at like a different level. They happen on your local machine, not the CI machine.
Not the big cloud. Yeah, and it would be more salty later if it was happening later. Like, I would be double, triple salty. So
yeah, I think we do it for some things like Prettier. I think we do it at 2 levels. So we have a pre-commit hook does it, but then the CI thing does it too. Like, just in case, like, we don't ever want to pull code and hit save, and then all of a sudden you're responsible for 5 changes that Prettier made, because somebody else didn't. So it just this constantly prettifies everything.
Hopefully they're using the same config, or if they weren't,
that would be a
nightmare.
A Prettier battle. Somebody should set up. That would be great, to run a cron job where with 2 competing Prettier configs, just on the hour, every hour, they just fight back and forth.
Oh God,
that'd be great.
I'm sweating. And then Visual Studio Code comes along. Hey, I can do this. I got plugins. It's just like, oh God, man, not you. You're great and all, but we don't want that. So,
well, there's Josh too. He has got this funny moment, I think, in the talk where he's like, well, we brought some people on the team. She was huge on spreadsheets, prioritized stuff in her spreadsheet, and then like zooms into one column, and he's like, and there's the wireframe.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was,
That's
interesting.
funny.
Josh is like, let's all quit designing and just do spreadsheets. I thought that was really compelling. I somebody who loves to Notion, I thought that was a very compelling talk. So just get rid of design and do spreadsheets. I didn't get to see all of Josh's talk, but I think was what he was kind of getting at. So yeah,
Dave had some slides to make.
I was busy on a webinar, preparing for a webinar. We had a plenary session to get ready for the webinar. Yeah, no, I'm that's one talk I'm like definitely going back, and of course there's talks tomorrow that I'll be attending, so it's fun, good times here at the oh hey, hold on. Okay, get rid of spreadsheets and get rid of design and do spreadsheets. Yeah, I think that's good. I think you just everyone tweet that out. That's a good that's the summation of the talk, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Dave, do you have any final thoughts here? One of my final thoughts is that I forgot to record my audio, so this might be a one and done.
This might just be one of those magical episodes that only shows up for the live show. I think that's it's just for y'all. And I think Smashing is trying to get this recorded, and so it'll head over to people over on your YouTubes of choice or whatever that is. So
yeah, that's fine. Oh, if they're nice to him, we'll get the audio. Oh, I'll be so nice to you. I promise.
I just need an MP3, please. I'm Bernie Sanders. I'm once again
put it on a really slow web
MP3.
host.
Yeah.
Make it really low quality. I don't care.
Yeah, it's fine. Oh, hey, Ari's here. Hey, Ari, how are you? But yeah, no, I think we this was fun. So thank you, Smashing. If anyone has any questions, here's your time we technically have like another hour, so we can just sit here for another hour. But I think this might conclude our webinar here. I feel like we've addressed all the value propositions that we were here to address. Yeah, I can put these. I'll put these slides up on Noticed. It'll be up there later today. I'll do it right
all
now.
Your goal-oriented model networking needs.
Please, clouds, for your business. We appreciate it. And
that sounds like economically sound, out of the box thinking, Dave.
We'll sign your enterprise contract today. All right, we gotta go. Thank you, telecommuter, for watching this on your hop in, and we really appreciate it. And thank you for downloading this in a podcatcher if you did that, and follow us at Shop Talk Show on Twitter for tens of tweets a month. And if you hate your job, head over to shoptalkshow.com/jobs. There's a job board. You can check it out. People want to hire people like you. And Chris, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
That was the Smashing shoptalkshow.com.
And then we just freeze like this for like.
Oh yeah.
You just hold it.
Somebody get a screenshot.
Can somebody rescue us?
He just pushes us off screen.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back.
Good times. All right. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate it.
After dark.
We'll I guess we'll just leave. I don't know. I click the leave button and then I'm done. But we yeah. Anyway.
Hiya.
Okay. Thank you so much, y'all. It was fun.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.